No, I don't want to hear a story about your
I'm going to
grandfather.
tell you a story about my grandfather.
Oh, okay.
So, my grandfather was a very tall man.
Oh yeah, you're not
He,
you're not very you're like is that hereditary or was it like
he was
tall?
a very tall man.
Okay.
And,
None of your parents are tall.
well, both of my parents
None of them.
are, well, one of them is a descendant of my grandfather. My grandfather was a very tall man.
Okay.
And
Ex
he was
ex
about 12 feet
okay.
tall. Actually,
12
he
feet
was
tall.
exactly 12 feet tall.
Exactly 12 feet tall.
He was born that way.
I don't believe that your grandfather was exactly 12 feet tall.
Well, no, he was born 12 feet tall, and then he stayed 12 feet tall his entire life, exactly
Exactly.
to the
Like
to the atom.
not even just centimeters.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
To the atom, he
To
was
the
12
atom.
feet
He
tall.
was 12 feet tall. That's
Yeah,
a
he was
very
famous. He was famous for that,
he was famous for being exactly 12 feet
for
tall.
being exactly 12 feet tall.
Like I don't like there are a lot of people that are 12 feet tall, but exactly 12 feet tall. Wow. You must be proud.
Well, I never knew him.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Here's why. One day he decided that there needed to be a space station that was international.
The
Um,
International Space Station.
well, yes, yeah, of sorts.
Okay.
So he got together some balsa wood
Yeah.
and some
Oh,
tissues,
that's good. That's
like facial tissues.
like good flying material. Also,
Right. And he put it together with his own urine, which he had to dehydrate himself so that it would be like the
a
consistency.
solvent, so that would it would be adhesive.
Well, so that it would be like the consistency of toothpaste.
Okay, right, yeah.
Right, right. So very,
So
very dehydrated.
so
It
like
was, it was very
lots of salt in it, fluoride. My grandfather had urine that was entirely fluoride.
right. So my
Great party
grandfather was
trick.
12 feet tall,
Yeah.
and so after putting together the space station made of balsa wood and
Tissue
urine
paper and urine.
and yeah,
You
facial tissue.
forgot tissue paper.
Right, right. Tissue paper. He he got inside and he jumped.
How big was the space station?
Oh, it was about a 4-inch cube.
Okay.
Right. So he jumped about orbital height, whatever
Right.
that
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah.
and he swam through the atmosphere at like orbital velocity about. So he started orbiting.
Yeah. Right. No. Of course. So he started orbiting, and okay.
Right. So he was orbiting in this wooden structure,
Wood
and
and
and tissue
urine
paper
and
and
facial tissue.
urine. Right. And so he was doing that, and then America was like, "Wow, it's pretty cool." My grandfather was not American, but America decided to intercede.
So
So so America was like, "Hey, we should make a national
okay.
thing, like a yeah, yeah." And they actually
A
named,
national saw.
well, no, a national space organization.
So a national saw. Well, hate to interrupt your anecdote here, or excuse me, I pronounce that wrong
Yes.
all the time. Anecdote. Um,
Oh,
yeah. Sorry to interrupt your anecdote, but I do have a question.
yes.
How tall was your grandfather?
He was 12 feet tall exactly.
And now, if I'm not mistaken, you said to the atom.
To the atom.
Okay. And he stayed that way his entire life?
His entire life.
Okay. Funny story about my grandfather, actually. He was born.
We'll hear your grandfather's story later.
Oh, okay.
Okay, like just give me like 30 seconds.
Okay. That's a
So my
very
grandfather
short
was
time.
approached by NASA, which is
The
I don't know
national
if you've heard
saw.
of it.
The national saw, yeah.
Right. So NASA was like, "Yo, player, you're pretty good at that." He was like, "Yeah, man, pretty good at that." But they were referring to, by the way, his orbiting. He was very good at orbiting.
He was
So
very
he
good
was
at orbiting.
orbiting,
Was that his like special
and
talent?
right, yeah, and then what they did was they mailed him pieces of metal, and
Yeah.
he was to replace the pieces of balsa wood with pieces of metal,
Right.
and
Yeah, of
eventually
course.
all the pieces of balsa wood were replaced, and then they mailed him sheets of metal,
Right.
and each tissue paper was, you know, supposed to be replaced with more tissue paper, and so he rebuilt it basically out of the metal that NASA sent him. And so now you know that um I think they call it the International Space Station.
Yeah.
It was built by him.
Oh, that's cool. Good to know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's great. That's great. That's great to hear, Eduardo.
Right. So your grandfather's story.
Yeah, well, so my grandfather was also actually 12 feet tall, except he was 12.2 feet tall. He
Oh,
was very proud of being 12.2 feet tall. Not many people are 12.2 feet tall. You got
right.
you got a lot of 12-foot tall to the atom people. You got a lot of 12-foot 3 people. You got a lot of 12-foot 4 people. You got a lot of 12-foot 5 people. You got a lot of 12-foot 6 people. You got a lot of
Right. You
12-foot
have a lot
7.
of people in the 12-foot range.
Right, yeah. Anyway, so what was I saying? Right, he was 12 foot 2. And so
Wait,
he's
12.2 or 12'2"?
12.2.
Right. Okay.
Right. Yeah, so anyway, so he was actually his name was Helena. Um
His name was Helena.
yes. Do you have a problem with that?
Okay.
I always had a problem connecting with my grandfather. First of all, because he was 12 feet tall when I stayed 1 foot tall until last year, as you know.
I did not. I didn't know that actually.
But Eduardo, we've known each other for 18 years. And by that I mean
Right. We're that
180
old.
years. Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
so I always had a problem with connecting with him because he was so tall and because he spoke um, only archaic Japanese.
Oh, hey. That's a pretty crazy coincidence. My dad also, not my dad, my grandfather also only spoke archaic Japanese.
That really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That's good to know. Anyway, so he only spoke. So there was always a language barrier and there was always the sound barrier between us, because my grandfather was constantly moving at 17,000 miles per hour. Not just he was moving like against the Earth's orbit. So I only saw
Right.
him,
So up.
no, I'm sorry, against the Earth's rotation. So I only saw him like
Oh,
for
right.
a couple seconds each day, when he passed through the tunnel that was built in our house to accommodate him.
Right.
Yeah.
Clearly.
But from what I could glean from him, he actually wrote 11 books, among them being excuse me, the anarchists book.
The anarchist book.
Yeah, because it had two books.
Wait. Wait. Your grandfather was Helena Haddo?
No.
Oh, because there's a book called the anarchist. Sorry, there's a book by a woman,
Oh,
or I
man.
guess not a
Oh,
woman,
man.
named Helena Haddo, called the anarchist. Sorry, I've confused your grandfather for somebody else.
No, his name was Helena Johnley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I haven't read that version of
No.
the book.
Anyway, so the
Sorry,
anarchists
continue.
book was actually about how to be politically correct. Um, it was a bestseller. It sold 2 copies.
That's a bestseller.
Yeah. It was a
Well,
bestseller in his native country, which was actually the walls of Leonid Brezhnev's house, which he spent most of his life in. He actually made a living
right.
off of
Wait, in the end of Brezhnev or the walls of his house?
the walls of his house.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So anyway, um, as I was saying, he spent his entire life within the walls of Leonid Brezhnev's house. So he actually made a living by forging Soviet documents and sending them into space via the Soviet cosmonaut lizardnaut program. He actually put them inside of the lizard's food packets, inside of the
Right.
crickets in the lizard's food packets. They were
Right. Okay.
freeze-dried crickets, obviously. I mean,
Right, because if they're
yeah, that
alive,
would be
then
stupid.
it's
Yeah,
hard to.
exactly. Anyway,
Yeah.
so he actually so that's how he made a living, and he saved up enough money to move his family, and none of his family was related to me. He had 73 children, um,
And none of them were related to him.
related to me,
Oh, wait, then how is he
my grandfather.
your grandfather?
Oh well, he's my surrogate grandfather. My other grandfather was actually his father. So yeah,
That's really creepy.
no, I call him my father. It's kind of a
Anyway,
cutesy term. Anyway, so so my grandfather, or my father, uh, What was I saying? Right. So he eventually saved up enough money to take his family, and that was all 73 children, and moved to America 200 years before he was born. Right. Yeah. So unfortunately, all of his children, but my grandfather were killed in the Great Purge of of Helena John children of 1804.
Right. Famous,
Famous,
famous
yeah.
thing.
Terrible, terrible.
Great part of Greek history.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was one day. This is the story. That was just all background information. So one day he was standing, and he was actually tearing pages out of a book one by one and then replacing them backwards, because that was the fad that day.
Was it like a
Yeah,
hobby
that
of
was a
his?
hobby. So anyway, so he was doing that, and he actually stepped upon the left. Oh wow, sorry, ear of George. Who?
Can I ask who that is?
He was the village idiot of America.
The village idiot of all of
Yeah,
America.
he's still alive today. Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, so my grandfather stepped on his left ear because Abraham George was laying on the ground and spinning in circles. So naturally, my grandfather took the opportunity to step on his left ear, and then William George he decided to contract syphilis, and then he was fine though.
oh, he
Yeah,
was fine. What a
I
brave
know,
man.
right?
Interesting alternate story about my grandfather. He actually invented the
Oh,
quarter.
really?
Yeah, what happened was he went into a public restroom in
Right.
Spain, and he decided that the ambiance there was too
Right.
free. Right.
Free as a
So
dime, I
what
used to
he did
say.
was, well, okay. So what he did was he duct taped people to the
Right.
floor, right, face down, so that they weren't free.
That's great.
And then, right, and then he would, like anybody else who tried to come in to the
Right.
bathroom, he would tape them to the floor by their feet, and
Etc. Etc.
and make, right. Well, no, instead of peeing into it like a urinal or whatever, they were forced to urinate on whoever else was.
Oh wow, that is awful.
Right, and unless so he decided that maybe some of these people should maybe be free.
Right.
Especially the people who were, sorry, what's the word?
I don't know what the word you're thinking of is.
It starts with a J.
J.
Yeah, sorry, they were J-holopteri.
Of course.
Right, the people who were J-holopteri.
Yeah.
He decided maybe they should
Yeah.
be free, so he decided to come up with a currency.
Oh yeah. So it was the
And,
quarter.
no, it was Bitcoin. But Bitcoin became worth too much too fast. So what he did was he was going to create a smaller currency, of like a significantly smaller currency, and that's where we get our computer mouse.
Right.
Like people would buy things with computer mice. It was
Oh, really?
infiltrating. Yeah, but then
That
even
sounds really
that was
interesting.
a
I
little
have
bit
a
more
Logitech.
valuable.
Oh yeah.
I have a Dell. I thought that was good. My bad. Anyway, so that was worth more than he like really wanted to have this be worth. So he invented a small piece of metal, and that was going to be the thing with which prisoners paid
Yeah.
to get out. The problem was though that was a quarter. The problem with it was that they didn't have any
Right.
quarters. The people who
Of
were
course.
in
Yeah, because they
prison.
were in prison.
Because right. So eventually he just sold the rights to it
Okay.
rather to America.
Wow, that's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my grandfather
He
was a
was.
very
He
brave
sounds like a
man.
very brave man.
Well, no. He
He
sounds like a terrible
does
person.
actually.
Yeah. Don't go in public restrooms in Spain. a lot of history on
I
that.
can tell. No,
More than you
yeah,
can handle.
obviously.
Right. So, yeah. I actually lived. I was born 4 years before my
Oh, really?
grandfather was.
Huh.
Yeah, which made for a pretty interesting
Yeah.
lineage. Yeah, yeah. He was born in actually like about
Yeah.
20 minutes ago,
So
and
you're 4 years old. You're 4 years old.
what? Well, kind of. I was actually born before I was born.
Oh, of course. I'm sorry.
Right. So actually, what that led, like, I was born in the 50s.